Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to get the most power out of your Artemis PP750 pistol. Make sure that you don't have any rounds in, no magazine in the gun. So keep dry firing your gun. And then you'll know when it's empty because you'll hear the last little bit of air run out. So once you hear that, you can see out of air. Is remove the air cylinder. Again, making sure that there isn't any air in there. So inside here is your regulator. Alright, so there's a lot of threads. Once you break this loose, you just keep turning and turning and turning and turning. And then you keep turning some more until you finally get this out. There's a lot of threads, and when you get to the end, you don't really notice it that much because you still have the O-rings in there, so it's still tight. So it's not like when you get to the last thread it just pops right out. So just keep turning until you feel like you got it, and then you can give it a little pull. There, and then it pops out. So right here is where you adjust the regulator. When I got my gun using Crosman Premier's 14.3 grain, I was shooting 7.3 foot-pounds of energy. So what I did was I went counterclockwise, will give you more power. I went 1 1/4 full turns. There's only so far you can go before you're up too high and it just doesn't improve it anymore. You don't want to take it completely out. So going 1 1/4, that got me up to 10 foot-pounds of energy, which is about the maximum you can get, at least that I could get, by just adjusting the regulator and the hammer spring, which I'll show you in a minute. So clockwise, less power. Counterclockwise, more power. If you set it where you have about 2 threads sticking out of the top, that got me around 20 foot-pounds of energy with the Crosman pellets. So I've since turned it down, so I have about 1.5 threads sticking over, and that gets me 17.5 foot-pounds, and the gun is a lot quieter, and I got many more shots out of it that way. And it's still powerful enough at short distance. Right here is where you adjust the hammer spring. Counterclockwise will give you less power, clockwise will give you more. So I have mine set, I went all the way in, and then I went back out about 1/4 turn to a 1/2 turn. One thing when you go in too far is that you notice your lever pops out very easy. You just tap it and it pops out. It's a little bit harder to cock. But if you want more power out of it, you have to have that turned up. If you have your regulator set really low, no matter how much you turn this in, it won't make much of a difference at all. And I'll explain that to you. So this is how this works. Here you have your air cylinder, and then your regulator, and here's the air pressure. And if you remember, this pin right here, from the pressure, gets closed. And it seals this off so you don't have any air coming through. So when you pull the trigger, the hammer spring comes and hits this and pushes that pin open, allowing the air to come up and push the pellet out. So adjusting this won't make a huge difference if your regulator is already set really low from factory, because you don't have much pressure on the side, so it's already really easy to push that pin open. So if you're from factory and you're adjusting this and it's not doing much, that's why you won't see a great difference. However, if you change your regulator so you have a lot of pressure on this side, then it's really holding this pin closed, so you have to turn this up in order to give it a good enough hit to push that pin open far enough to make a real difference. So if the regulator's set higher, you're going to notice a bigger difference adjusting your hammer spring. So if you take that in just about as far as you can go, and you adjusted your regulator, I wound up getting about 10.5 foot-pounds of energy with the crosswinds, and that's the most you can get without doing any further adjustments. Alright, so if you're brave enough and you want to get the most out of your gun and you don't mind drilling some holes, or maybe you're familiar with working with air guns and this is comfortable for you, next thing you got to do, what I did is I took the barrel off. So took the barrel off, and there's a hole on either side right here and there. I drilled those out to 1/8 of an inch. And then just be careful when you do that. Make sure that you look inside. You don't want to have any burrs hanging down in there or something that's going to affect the pellet. Okay, so drilling the barrel out by itself didn't make any difference really. You have to do something else also. You got to take this apart. So this little screw right here, you want to take that one out. And then also this one in the back right here, that's got to come out. Try to hold it together while you're doing this. And then this will come apart. Be careful that you don't lose this spring right here. Alright, once you do that, then you have to take this part right here off. So you got 2 screws right here, and then 2 more right there. Here you have a brown O-ring. You want to make sure you don't lose that. And then what I did was I drilled that hole there out to 5/32. Then you make sure you take this out. And then your valve pin here, take that out. Then if you can see inside there, that brass piece has to come out. So this is the hardest part. See this little pin right here? That pin needs punched out. So you can see the one side here, you see little crimp marks around it. You want to punch it from the side that doesn't have that, and it does not come out easy. But you have to take that out. The first time taking this out was a real pain. Just try to be patient with it so you don't scratch up your gun too much. I did just a tiny bit on this side. Whatever you do, do not drill it out, because you have to put that pin back in there. In a minute I'll show you what the pin does. There, see, the second time that came out easier for me. And then just remember which way that went in. With the little crimp marks here, it's going to go on that side, so it needs to go back in that way. Then you have to get that out of there. So in order to do that, you a screwdriver and take this out. So that comes out. Spring, and this comes out. So now you can see down in there to where the valve port is. Way down in there. But you have to take it, push it out that way. So don't use a screwdriver, don't use something that's going to scratch that up. If you can find a stick, dowel rod, or a pencil, something that won't damage the insides, and then it pushes kind of hard. So now you have this taken out, and you can see right here, that's where that pin was. It was going through there to hold that in place. So this hole right here, I drilled out to 5/32. I wouldn't go any bigger than that. You could maybe try a little less just to be on the safe side. Because if you can see in there where this pin goes in, that fits in tight. So you really don't want to mess anything up inside of here. Have too big of a hole, too big of burrs or anything that this doesn't move smoothly. Alright, once you get that drilled out, then all we have to do is put everything back together. Cross, put a line, little mark right there with a pencil. So that way, when you're putting it in, you can see that that needs to be in the center. And then you push it back in. Push it in as far as you can get it to go. Made a little click noise there at the end. And then you should be able to see through that hole again that your pin came out of to know that you have it lined up good. You want to put your pin in the same way that it came out. Your valve pin. And then you want to put this spring back in. This O-ring here that fits in there. And then this will go back on like that. Hammer back in. Hammer spring. And then this little guy here, hammer spring tensioner. Get him started. This little spring right here, this little joker has got to fit inside that little hole there. And one time I didn't get it quite right and I didn't realize this at first, and now I have a bent spring. It still works fine, but I didn't realize that I didn't have it perfectly in that hole. Alright, try to get the back end in first. And then keep an eye on that spring in there to make sure that that goes back in that little hole. There. See how I just got it back in the hole there? Then you can slide it back down. And then hold it tight. That's it. It's all back together. So I noticed that from empty, you have to have the gun cocked in order for it to take air. Alright, thanks for sticking with me for the whole video. Hopefully this helped you out a lot. If you've made some adjustments to your pistol, please comment below what you did to it and what kind of performance, what kind of shot string and energy you're getting out of it, and feet per second, all that good stuff. And we can help each other out. Thanks.